Today's show is sponsored by Scot Audio. Scot Audio designs and builds audio components made in the USA. Based in Valencia, California, their wide line of amps, DACs, and audio accessories fit any budget, starting at $49. For a full rundown of all their products, visit Scot.com or stop by their retail store in Old Newhall, just north of Los Angeles. That's SCHIIT.com. Also, a very special thank you to our two Part-Time Audiophile Capital Audiofest show sponsors, Verdant Audio and Tenacious Sound. Verdant Audio, sound in full bloom. VERDANTAUDIO.com. And also Tenacious Sound, your music, your ears, your journey. TenaciousSound.com. TenaciousSound.com. Hey everybody, you have arrived at the Occasional Podcast, Season 3, Episode 5, Capital Audiofest 2019 highlights. It's a lot of words for describing a podcast. However, if you're into the know, if you're keen with what we got going down here, Capital Audiofest is an audio show that happens in D.C. every year, November 1st through the 3rd. We have all the highlights from that show for you with a bunch of cool friends of Part-Time Audiophile. So don't forget to check out ParttimeAudiophile.com for all show coverage all the time. Capital Audiofest is there. Impressions, lovely, lovely news, product releases, fun stuff from the show. Also, don't forget to check out the Occasional magazine. You can navigate to there from the top menu and then download to your heart's delight. Believe it or not, I actually was not available to make it to Capital Audiofest this year, but Scot Hull, publisher of Part-Time Audiophile, was there with an entire writing crew of beautiful talent for Part-Time Audiophile. Eric Franklin Shook and Marc Phillips, along with some special guest stars, deliver all the goods for you. So, as we say, on with the show. Here we go. Take it away, Scott.
So top of the order. Let's go around and what did you guys? Well, first off, let's start off with the show. Did you like the show? What's up with the show? Any thoughts about the 2019 Capital Audiofest?
I really like it. This is my second one. I liked it last year. I had never been before. That was a great show. This was an excellent show. It really was, and bigger. It's a lot bigger. It's got a lot more energy. I've never really felt that it was a small show from my first time. It's growing. It's exciting. It's a lot of it is like the same people in the same exact spot as last year, but there's something nice about it because I know my way around. I'm not searching for people. And you know what? And like when we get to our favorites, the thing about it is that there was so many good sounding rooms in here. And it's going to be hard for me to pick, but I'll try.
It was pretty good.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just queuing myself in with a hand raise. I'm agreeing with Marc that it was a banner year for this show because normally the show is less rooms, and it just seems like you're done with it by day 1.5. And the vibe is still good. Everything's connected well with lack of internet, despite that, the streaming problems.
That was a big thing for me because, I wanted to do the Tool thing again. I did it at Rocky Mountain. No, it's where I
want to do the Tool thing. You need
I want to do the Tool thing.
That one,
and you know what? Rocky Mountain, it didn't work out the way I wanted to. And I had 6 people.
So Marc went around at one of the audio shows and played the album, the latest album on Kobo's, the Tool album, over and over. He won a lot of friends, made a lot of interesting connections, scared a lot of people, and emptied a lot of rooms. But it was a good time. Yeah, old people. Whatever.
Okay, so this time I found out by the time I left Rocky Mountain that the big demo track that people were doing was Chocolate Chip Trip, which is basically the drum solo album. Oh. And so I thought it's shorter because the song I was making them play last time was 10 minutes long. This one's like 4 minutes long.
Right.
And so, but nobody could stream, so that was kind of a bummer. I got 2 Chocolate Chip Trips. It's hard to say. I want to say drip. Trips And that was it, and that's not even worth mentioning. So, and the whole thing behind it is just for me to casually mention I went in the room and mention the same song over and over again, how it sounded, and not bring any attention to it, just deadpan. And I couldn't quite pull it off of Rocky Mountain, and it definitely didn't happen here.
I think Dave did this for us, right? You were well prepared.
I tried to be. Yeah.
Introduce yourself, Dave.
I'm Dave, and
Hi, Dave.
it was my first audio show. Well, I went to a New York Hi-Fi show 40 years ago or something. But the thing that I found overall about the show that I really enjoyed is I didn't detect any sort of cynicism. People were really excited about their product, and they seemed. Each room I went into, it was kind of a fresh new experience, and it was great to meet sometimes the designer of the product, sometimes the marketing people, but everybody was like genuinely enthusiastic, and that I enjoyed that a lot.
I liked watching you walk around with your own the albums that you mastered, and then playing them and having them tell you,
well, it's,
you know what, it really is supposed to, no, really, I know this is supposed to sound like this.
Well, here's the thing. It's not because my particular records sound any better or is particularly audiophile. It's just that I know them really well, and if there had been streaming, I wouldn't have had to do that. I could have picked stuff, so I almost didn't bring anything at the last minute. I said, okay, I'm just going to bring a couple of records. And I'm really glad I did, because there wasn't streaming. And a lot of people only had 20 or 30 tracks archived in their thing. And so,
So Dave wins the award for most prepared. Yeah. Most prepared. What do you think, Grover?
Well, I only heard Take 5 played once. So I think in a certain sense, right, people only having what their hard drives had was a good thing, because it reveals the music that they wanted to play. I heard a real diversity of music at this show, and a lot of it was stuff that, like I said, I didn't hear a lot of what we consider the audiophile show favorites. So that was pleasant. It's my first time being at CAF, so for me, it's very new, but I think, Mark, what you said hit home a lot. It feels like a very cozy show. People are very friendly. People are very...
It's kind of the same people that show up to the show and they've supported it, so they're all friends and they all love to get
And I think that
parties.
Other shows are more reluctant to party as much in this show, because it's the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's like the Office Christmas party.
Everybody's looking for a new thing to claim on their taxes, so they're willing to just throw down and play.
It was very congenial.
After hours of this show is one of the best, I think.
So do you want to go around, talk a little bit about what happened after hours? I mean, I know Marc had a very strange and unusual, but hopefully to be repeated often experience down in the VAC via VSA room.
Yeah, I got to do. Well, I've been. I started last year when Greg Weaver does his thing where he pulls out his rare pressings of familiar classic rock albums so we can hear them for the first time. And I'd been reviewing a lot of different stuff for the Vinyl Anachronist for our site. And I reviewed The Filter, the 20th anniversary of Title of Record. And Leif Swanson of Von Schweikert went nuts. And he goes, dude, we got to have you bring these records and do a thing like Greg Weaver. And I said, sure, whatever. And he goes, you want me to do it this time? He goes, would you? Would I? And then I did it, and it was not announced or anything. It was just kind of a dry run, and I did it from 8 to 10, 2 hours, and I brought some of my special albums, a lot of the stuff I used to bring when I was an exhibitor to shows, and I played it for the audience, and it was bizarre because, number one, I don't do a lot of public speaking. I'm a big introvert, but I was playing records and talking and telling stories behind it, and they were applauding me, and I don't know if I've been applauded since grade school.
Nice. But now, so we're just going to call you Greg Weaver Jr. from now on.
You can call me Greg Weaver Jr.
All right.
I'm his opening act now.
So what else happened after hours?
Well, after hours, this is Eric Franklin Shook, by the way. After hours, I think I can talk about what we did that was on the books.
Are you allowed to talk? Have the releases been signed? That's what I want to know.
So because I have Grover Neville here, I have Jameson Mourafetis here. Jameson's with F1 Audio out of Chicago. Grover's out of Chicago, or LA now. We've kind of thrown ourselves into the hat, after hours wise, to throw the Under 40 dinner and after hours listening party, which the idea behind it is very noble.
Is it?
Because the idea behind it is to get all the needles out of the haystack everybody under 40 that is two generations of millennials and Gen Z, put them together so that at least they can see other people like them at a show. Because that's one of the benefits of coming to an audio show, is that you meet people with the same passion and insanity that you carry. But, there's tons of people of a certain age group that are just the average of the show. Whereas the younger generations, they're here and there. So
they're
having them all
invisible
together
in many ways.
in the industry,
So this actually lifts them out. Right?
Yeah, it lifts them out, but
singles them out so we can identify them, tag them appropriately. So if they do escape into the wild, we can go hunt them down and drag them back.
Correct, and even refine what our thoughts are. I keep echoing myself in print, but the idea is to kind of codify what the culture and community of the hobby will be in the future going forward. And maybe even change some things, keep some things, and improve on some habits or perspectives that we use when we talk and listen about audio.
I appreciated the diversity at the Under 40 dinner in terms of experience. So there were the Sherricks, of course, are dealers, right, and have done
brand new dealers,
digital.
Too. Yeah, would now listen here in
now listen here,
Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Jessica and Aaron Sherrick, and they're in their 30s, I believe. We had, obviously, Jameson, right, who's a dealer who's 20... Are you 23 now?
23, yep.
23 still.
Ripe old age of 23.
A mixture of folks who've worked in the industry, like myself, as well as Nan, who's classical radio curator and occasional host, and also an audiophile. So it was a really interesting mix. I think as diverse a mix as you see in the other age groups. It's not just manufacturers and press people and attendees. They're rich people who have varied interests. I think you, Scott, were telling me about Sandy Gross has this crazy collection of pre-Columbian art, and it was that same kind of richness in the under 40 crowd of interest in different music and in different hobbies, even outside of hi-fi. And I think we're all a little bit OCD in certain ways, right, because we're into this hobby. But it was really nice to see a wide variety of people. Men, women,
and, we also invited some people who were over 40 to
I'm not
attend.
sure that was really within the purview.
Yeah,
did they sneak
wasn't-
in, or they
well,
actually invited?
You're a
What it
rule
is-
breaker, Eric.
yeah,
though. That's your
it's-
thing.
the
Even
whole
if you have
idea
an event,
was-
you
He's
feel
the
the
one
need
who
to-
wrote the rule.
I wrote the rules.
And he felt the need to break them because
And I felt the need to break them. I said, well, one, it was kind of like we had an invite only for the over 40 for certain people that we felt were made good mentors.
Yeah.
The young at heart.
The
Which
young
is why
at heart.
I was not invited myself.
And, so it was kind of like
That's
we weren't
fine.
trying to open
That's
it up
fine.
wide open to the whoever's. And I don't know. I just,
I think we had a few
That was
interlopers.
the end goal, was to kind of like, the older people could see what we were.
The older people. But tell me, my
well, I wanted to ask Jameson.
my contacts have said that we're doing this again.
Yeah, we're going to keep doing it over and over again. If I can hand it off to like Grover or Jameson at some point when I get too old, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Jameson,
Yeah.
what
When
did
you
you
get
even
too
think
old.
of the event? I really want your thoughts on this.
Well, it was my first time here, and I think that I don't know. It was it was a much more laid back show than Expono or some of the other shows, and definitely the after hours stuff was a lot more laid back. And
Yeah, the after hours was trouble.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But as a dealer who's not exhibiting here, it's way more fun than Expono was.
Yeah.
We've got a guest, Aaron Sherrick of Now Listen Here. What did you think of the show, Aaron?
Well, as a first-time exhibitor, it's been interesting. Friday definitely seemed busier this year than the last couple of years I've been here, and today's been a little slow. But yeah, it's been fun.
Solid.
We appreciate you coming and hanging out, representing the under 40 group. Yeah. Right, yeah. The one that we're not allowed, Marc and I are not allowed at, but we still appreciate you coming. I'm still looking at you, Eric.
When we have an over 70 dinner, you'll be invited.
I love you too, my friend.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, Eric.
Anybody want to talk about some top fives?
Well, let's go around and talk a little bit about what we saw.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't you start?
Yeah. Man, Griffin Audio. I've seen them at shows before, and I really spent some time in there, and I thought it was really, really good. I called Dave up, and I was like, "Hey, let's go look at this because it's the embodiment of what hi-fi is in a marketing standpoint, the way they've unified the brand and the look of the aesthetic. They've got money to spend, obviously. So they've put them, they could go in any tier of hi-fi they wanted to, and they chose that one at that price point. And they've got a new CD player in there. It's like $39,000 with a DAC accessible to it. And but the sound in that room is just really, really good. Another one I liked was spatial audio. They were using the LTA integrated 12 watts or possibly 10 watts.
I think the entire system price.
The
in
entire
that room,
system price was under $10,000.
under 10 grand.
And it's the new M3 in its redesigned form. It's got two
Sapphire, yeah.
15-inch full range drivers.
It's
Two
a 2.5-way speaker.
It's a 2.5-way speaker with a mid-tweeter that they've been working on for a couple years. And in Dave in particular, I had to kind of open him up to that because Dave has his biases and thoughts and whatnot. And I said, he's like, open baffle's not for me. And I said, no, come on, let's go listen to it. And I said transients, and he's like, transients they don't involve bass. And I'm like, whatever, come on. Yeah. And it's fast bass. It has no hangover, no decay, and it's immediate. But that was a 10-watt powered system that I took Dave to, and I was like, well, that's one of my favorites. But then I said, let's go to another open baffle system with GT Audio Works, and it's powered servo subs, and it's super fast. It's big ribbon panels with
lobby
full
system
range,
downstairs.
Full ribbon.
Yeah.
Full range ribbon downstairs, and I thought that was great. That's like right now. That's my like top 3. If there was like a 4 and 5, I don't know. I have to come back to you on that. I think wait for the book.
We can swing back on that.
We can swing back on that. Jameson, what did you like? Give me a top 3.
The Voice That Is room. I love the titles.
Title.
They sounded awesome, and
I'm a little biased, but yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me if you threw a headphone in there.
Yeah. I gravitate toward the high end stuff. It's can't help it. But being a Magico dealer, I have to mention the M2s. Sounded fantastic.
I think that's part of the deal, isn't it? All right, yeah.
Of course. Yeah. But the new Mr. Speakers, Dan Clark Audio now. Ether or Aeon 2s were awesome. At $900, they're...
Yeah, that's a closed back headphone that when I put it on, I thought I was hearing an open back headphone.
Yeah.
And it was like, when Jameson told me it's like a $900 headphone, I was like, that's a real right price point for a closed back headphone that
there's
sounds
an open back version of it, too.
And there's an open...
I don't think they had there.
Which wasn't there, but I was fooled. Which
I enjoyed the closed back of the first.
I like Dan's work. Dan does nice stuff.
Yeah, but I like the fact that he's changed it to Dan Clark Audio. I like that. Mr. Speakers, a little hokey. Whatever. Dan Clark Audio. I like it. I'm with it.
DCA. Mm-hmm. DCA. It's the
DCA.
I'm logoizing. They'll pay me later.
What else? Was there anything else that caught your ears, Jameson?
Oh, what was the other one? Well, the QLMs. QLN
with Vinny Rossi's in.
Really good.
I'm getting those in for review. So, and I've been.
I'm envious.
They're great.
Yeah.
You look at those. There's not a lot to look at.
They don't look like they're going to sound like they do.
No, they really don't.
Not at all. And
beautiful speaker.
The Vinny Rossi stuff is.
I am driving away with
it's super
that
cool.
integrated, the L2 integrated. He's putting it in my trunk.
He's just bragging now.
Yeah. I've been waiting for like a year or two.
Yeah,
all the cool stuff I get. And
they're packing
I hope you enjoy it because I'm taking it with
truck.
me.
Yeah. I'm leaving with a full truck.
Every time I see him, he's thinking like, I'm reviewing that next week.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That Sonar?
Oh, the Sonar Audio stuff. Okay, so I'm reviewing the Sonar Audio Legato Unums right now.
Yeah.
I got them at the house, and I think it's like for, what, $5,500?
Yeah, it's like 6 with stands.
I'm surprised it's like how rich and like it's just... Wait for the review. I'm not going to say everything here, but it's badass, and it's my favorite monitor.
I'm not going to say
date.
anything except it's the most amazing thing I've ever heard.
It's amazing.
In my entire life.
It's amazing.
You are a loser if you don't get one.
Yeah,
Exactly.
basically buy it. But
so
then,
do you remember what I can't remember what the
larger, one that you heard
it's a something Unum.
It's basically twice as much. It's the Allegro Unum.
The
Allegro Unum. It's one of the few speakers where you see something for twice as much and you think, well, maybe I'll only gain another 30%. No, it's a full better. It's twice as much. in every aspect.
It was my biggest surprise at the show. So
Yeah.
I had
Yeah,
a lot
it's
of
a surprise.
the usual suspects, the ones that I really love and I visit, and of course they're just making
Yeah, because Sonar Audio is so new. I couldn't find any reviews.
and it was kind of neat because he was so excited to have me in his room, and he talked about you endlessly, obviously,
Right, 'cause I'm lovable.
But those Allegro Unums, and they're $10,000, but they're $12,000 with,
well, no, that's
with the stands.
Allegro Unum.
Yeah, the $12,000 for the stand. And you know what? It was almost like, because they're very small, but I love for some reason, I love an expensive little two-way that you look at and you go, what's the deal with this? And then it blows your mind. And this is what happened at the show. I just couldn't get enough of those speakers. I said, I want them, send them to me and everything. And he's totally into it. So hopefully I'll be able to report more on them. But I really love this little speaker. It sounded so fantastic. And it was deep. It was, and these days when you have a little tiny two-way, you have to make it sound like a big speaker. But, he really does it. And it's really good.
He nailed it without it sounding artificially bloated.
What's his name again? Sonny?
Huh?
His name is Sonny?
It's Gunny.
Gunny. He is such a fun guy. He was enthusiastic and he was full of the love and the, it was great to sit in that room for an hour.
Don't forget to wait for the review.
He's got an infectious personality.
Review coming soon.
But I've got to talk
to
him more because I got to get details on these speakers, which you'll help me with that.
Yeah,
we can research this company a little further.
But that was the surprise for me at
because
the
they're
show.
out of what, Boston or New Hampshire? Which one? I don't even remember.
I don't even think I asked him.
They're from up there in New England
We'll figure
somewhere.
it out.
Patriots fans, I hope.
If he's in New England, I'll go up and visit him.
Right. That's good. I would like you to do that.
Yeah.
What else is on your list, Mark?
Okay, so like I said, the usual suspects. So Vac and Von Schweikert were awesome, and the voice that is, it was just walking in there, you're just like my slogan was going to be for Doug was nobody does it better than Doug, and I told him that and he laughed. But it's true is when it comes to room setup, the guy, and he has kind of a lot of the same equipment that I've seen before, but he just knows how to put it together. So there's nothing you can say about it that isn't glowing. It just speaks to your heart and soul.
And he gets the same sound at every show, no matter what.
He does. And these were the Contrivas that were the 20th anniversary.
20th anniversary.
So there were minor cosmetic issues and a different kind of like silver wiring inside them. It's a little bit different. It's a $3,000 a surge, but there's only 20 of them made. And we were listening to serial number 1, and he has 2 and 3. So he gets the first 3, and then he goes, and the rest of the world gets the rest. But he gets 3 out of the 20. But they were really amazing. Everything about that system was amazing. And so, and then of course we've already talked about Vinny Rossi and those QLN speakers from Sweden, and it continues to amaze me that the depth of that soundstage from those small two-way floor standing speakers.
And what server were they using in there?
They were using the Inuas statement. Yeah. And so, love that room, of course. The big surprise for me was probably the Perfect 8 speakers. I heard them many years ago, and they were, they were like a cubic foot. It's glass speakers, cubic foot. Yet they were like $70,000 or something. So I went in there again, and I said, "Oh, I haven't heard these. I loved them the first time. They have an unbelievable soundstage to them that you can just walk around and poke around at." And haven't heard them in many years. And then I was surprised to see them still there. And they had a similar speaker. It looked even a little bit more sophisticated. I think it had an extra woofer. That they were, canceling each other out. And the price is $20,000. So for $70,000, it's like, wow, that's just kind of a dream speaker that I'll never be able to do. At $20,000, they're interesting, and then it's an extra $15,000 for the matching subwoofer. But every time I hear a glass speaker, I always think it's going to be glassy, and I'm not going to like it. It's not going to be warm enough, and they always surprise me. And these surprise me.
When you're talking about exotics, I got to throw one in there.
What's that?
Like exotic enclosure materials, Akora.
Yes, we were there this morning.
I don't know, Jameson. Did you get to Akora yet?
No, they were having some streaming issues.
Okay, streaming issues were always a thing, but their product is their speaker. The cabinet should be perfect because it's granite.
I thought it sounded great at RMAF.
Yeah, we heard it at RMAF, and they're here.
I heard them like a year ago, maybe here. It's the first time I heard them.
It
was the big ones.
Yeah,
and I liked
ones.
them. But I listened to, they have the little two-way stands, and they were just awesome. They were just incredible. I really liked them. It's really solid sound. And so, we'll see what happens next year. But I put myself on the list to get the little two-ways, too.
Yeah. Grover, what about you, buddy? What's your top 3, 5? What you got?
So I thought the new Aeon 2 headphones were exceptional. A lot better than the first generation of Aeon headphones. A lot more refinement in the tuning. It's kind of nice that they fold up as well, a little more portable. Dave and I were discussing there is a little thing in the low mids, just a little woofiness or something that we were hearing. But I think for an on-the-go headphone, and certainly for a headphone at, I think it was $899, $900, I think it's really tremendous compared to what's available now. There was the Sonar room, of course, I thought was quite good. I thought that QLN room, and Jameson, I think were you bringing in some you had some Vinny Rossi gear?
We just became a Vinny Rossi dealer.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, because I remember
RMF.
you guys had some of those monoblocks, and I've heard them at a few shows, and I always thought the Vinny Rossi stuff was really nice
the separates
electronics.
are awesome.
But those QLN speakers, Dave and I, from 1K up, it was really it was perfect. There was no frequency
For the
response
audience,
issues.
Dave is nodding along with Grover's statement.
I'll talk about it in a minute.
Yeah.
But
You look
those
at them,
were...
you don't expect a lot, and then you just go, wow.
That room, too, was very simple. It was a power conditioner or a power station of some sort, and then it was a Vinny Rossi amp, an NUOS server, and just the speakers. And it was...
eye candy.
Yeah, it was not an eye candy
Triode
room.
wire lab speaker.
And it was tremendous. It was really... The one thing that really stuck out to me about that room more than any other room was that the imaging didn't degrade when you got out of the sweet spot. It's an extremely hard trick to pull. You have to have a speaker that has very good dispersion characteristics, and that was probably one of the only systems at the show that did that for me. I thought that GT system downstairs, the big panel...
Yeah, GT AudioWorks.
Yeah, GT AudioWorks. That system sounded very good. The bass integration was fantastic.
Right.
There wasn't a ton of headphone stuff at this show. LTA headphone amps are wonderful. I got to listen to the MZ3 and the integrated Z10, I think. The Z10E is the Ultra Set.
I have a review coming out next week.
Yeah, I reviewed the MZ2 and I got the chance
weeks.
to use the MZ2 when I was reviewing it as a preamp, and I was very surprised actually by how good it was as a preamp. It's a great headphone amp. It might even be a better preamp. So I got the chance to hear some of their stereo gear, and I was very impressed with that. I didn't hear too much atrocious sound at the show. Most everything at least sounded.
I think we
I
were all
did.
happy.
I did.
I listened a
bombs
lot,
out
and I
there.
didn't hear a ton of stuff that sucked really hard. Not everything was horrible, so that was good, right?
I mean, there's the occasional thing that's out of phase. Red is positive,
the
guys.
occasional.
Remember that.
Dave and I had this discussion where when you've been an engineer and you've had trained, and Dave has better ears than I do, I'm just going to say that right now, but you can tell pretty quick whether it's something that you're interested in hearing more of or not. So for us, there was a number of rooms where we sat down and didn't spend too much time just because it wasn't compelling, but there was a couple rooms I know that we both sat down and were like, we're gonna sit down for a second.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
What were some of those rooms for you, Dave?
Well, just real quickly, one of the things that I discovered early on was that I was initially kind of thrown by the imaging in the small rooms. Imaging was almost universally pretty killer in the larger rooms, but in the small rooms, and there was a commonality to it, and once I kind of my ear-brain thing figured out that all of the small rooms, regardless of speaker style, were going to have that thing, I ignored it. And what it was for me was the stereo was extremely discrete with a super diffuse center image. Yeah. And it was just the opposite of kind of what you would expect. You would expect the things to be bouncing around, low ceiling, the whole deal, and it to be the whole... But it was like pinpoint, hard left and right, but nothing in the middle. And what it also told me is when I found a room where the center image was super three-dimensional and palpable, it was very apparent. Because all the other rooms were like hard left and right, nothing in the middle. In terms of the rooms that I liked, I loved the Von Schweiker vac room for large scale, super clean dynamics was pretty flawless. But like everybody else here, the Tidal speaker room, there was some undeniable kind of thing about it that was perfect, only not an off-putting perfection. A perfection that you could just very easily go, okay, this is it. I found it. The Griffin room had a similar kind of thing where I couldn't find any fault with it. There was nothing bizarrely off-putting like the finish is, is diamond coated bronze, and so you're paying,
Yeah, I mean the Griffin
$200,000.
stuff doesn't look like it belongs in a strip
It looked
club.
like it looked like it looked like it was worth.
I mean, when you see when you see something, a speaker that looks like a dancer's pole,
well,
coated in
the
chrome,
after hours party, in
really
the VPI,
tall,
in the VPI Kef room,
like
they were
the
missing
Kef
poles.
Muon.
They
kind of
missed an opportunity.
Kind of has
to have
that
poles.
coming to the stage look about it.
Yeah. Real quickly, the two other rooms though that I was most impressed by is the QLM, Vinny Rossi stuff, and the thing about that room that instantly drew me in was that while it didn't, nor would you expect it to have the kind of large scale, dynamic wow factor kind of thing, what it had was a certain there was a subtleness to the quality of it that you would think you'd have to live with for a long period of time to appreciate, but Grover and I instantly, this is it right here. They have the voicing of the mid-range is killer. The other stuff that I really liked a lot is I love the sound of the Mod Right electronics in the room with the larger Fern and Roby speakers.
Yeah, the Fern and Roby
absolutely.
Raven.
He has a 300B and his Phonopre, and I went back and forth amongst a lot of rooms and amongst some similar rooms, and while you couldn't isolate it, nor at a show like this, I really think there's something about the mid-range that I'm hearing in the Mod Right electronics that was really special.
That
really
300B, that 300B integrated amp he has is one of the best 300Bs I've heard. And I kind of, in the last year or two, I've kind of become a bit of a tube guy in my power amps, which I never thought I would lean towards.
So you can see yourself having that and enjoying it.
But that 300B has a clarity to the mid-range that is exceptional for any tube amp, but especially
you've been doing a lot of
300Bs.
things in the past year that you didn't think you'd be doing.
It's true. I'm here with you.
Easy. Here's another thing. We should put a pin in the date that Grover admitted out loud the beginning of a long and dangerous relationship with the 300B tube. We're gonna check him out in 10 years. I suspect that there will be at least 2 flips in between where he said, "I can't live without this tube. I can't deal with this tube. I can't live without this tube. This is the worst fucking tube ever. This is
I'm
the
going
best
broke.
tube.
I'm going
you
broke
can't
trying to get
better than
300Bs.
this." Dude, it's
Zoink, Scoob.
downhill.
Yeah.
It
I'm
will
addicted to Western
accelerate.
Electrics.
It's horrible. It's a horrible thing.
fell into the black hole.
Eva Anna Manley is going to get a lot of my money in the next year or two.
I think you and I
She
both
already
fell
has
into
too
that
much.
black hole.
So, and you know what the interesting thing about that Mod Right integrated, as beautiful as it sounded, and I'm a big fan of the Fern and Roby Ravens, and I love them with LTA, but at the same time I really loved them with Dan Wright's amp. This integrated, which is just beautiful and gorgeous and sounds great, is $10,000, and it's really a reasonable price for that kind of performance. It's,
You don't find too many 300B amps in
exactly.
a price range that
he
is...
did so much, and Dan, I've known Dan for a long time, and his stuff has always been fairly priced, and it really sounds good. And this is kind of a new thing, direction for him. He's just been doing these kind of tube amps for the last. What is the whole the line's called? Ambrose. The Ambrose line. The Ambrose line is that. You know what? This one is just. It's one of those things that you just own for the rest of your life, and you love it with every ounce of your being. It's a beautiful piece.
It's fun seeing him play.
Yeah. Well, and Dan really listens to feedback. We had a funny experience where Dave went into the that Fern and Roby room first, and I think there was something about one of the records that you had.
Well, I played
put
a couple
on.
of records, and they were ultra bright, super screaming bright, and I didn't want to.
Given that you mixed them, that's probably not how they were supposed to.
Yeah, well, I mean, but we'd also we had played them in a couple of other rooms.
Yeah, so we had a baseline of where they should be at. Yeah,
and like I said before, I don't have to play my records. I would have been content to stream some, audiophile chestnut that I knew, but I just happened.
It was bright even before we put on any of your records.
It was bright even before we put it, and he was. To be fair to them, I think they were probably leaning toward playing the kinds of music, 60s Brazilian bossa nova and things like, they were jazz ensemble stuff that is not going to be incredibly off-putting by the top end, just way jacked up. But I put on like a normal thing, and it was like, oh my god. So, but Dan, instead of going, whoa, we've been listening to this, for 2 days and everybody loves it. He was like, really? Well, what do you think? And then we realized that the suggested loading for the cartridge that he had copied on the Phonopre was horrible sounding. And when we clicked it 3 clicks down, 3 clicks away from the recommended loading, it sounded like it should have sounded.
It did.
So,
It did. And Dave gave and I had forgotten to mention that Dan Wright was actually in the room demoing the electronics.
I didn't know it was
and so
a
Dave gave very honest, not mean, but very honest feedback.
Yeah,
very honest feedback on the electronics, and kind of we narrowed down exactly what was wrong with the system, and it sounded quite good. And to his credit, Dan took the feedback incredibly well.
Well,
I've always
Dan's
seen him.
100% sweetheart to begin
Oh, he
with.
is. He is
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But just I think it's a credit to him that he really does take the feedback.
He didn't
and
have to be that open-minded.
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
he could
Very
have easily
accommodating.
went,
Yes,
well,
and
you know,
he takes that feedback really well when he's designing his electronics too. When people listen and give him feedback, he really does think, and I think it shows in the products because they're tuned in a way that will make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We reviewed that Phono Pre, I don't know how many years ago, 4, maybe 5 years ago.
I'm going to buy one.
It was
I'll buy
really
one.
good. It's got a lot of character, a lot of capability, and it kind of looks like it's built like a tank, right? I mean, I'm a fan.
And flexible, as we discovered.
Well, there's other things more expensive, and there's other things this and that, but for me, it fits the perfect for asking price and what it does and the sound of it. It's just a perfect sweet spot for me. So, one more thing.
Go for it.
Dude, the 2 guys with the GT Audio Works, flabbergasted. Complete surprise. Never heard of the company. Didn't look like it would sound right. Towers of servo subwoofers with a
couple of knuckleheads from Long Island who have interesting backgrounds.
Huge Pass X Series, the whole thing, and I sat in the right spot. Probably, in some ways, the best imaging of any system I heard the whole time, and incredibly dynamic for planar. Without, I was really impressed, and no
crossover in the line. Those are all mechanically
no
limited
crossover.
at the top and the bottom.
The amps were directly driving the mid. There's probably a little high pass for the tweeter ribbon thing, and then the subs. And the subs had rhythmic.
They were the rhythmic GR drivers.
They were the rhythmic power pack and tweaker with whatever they had chosen for the speakers.
That rhythmic sub, I've picked one apart before. It's some of the absolute most incredible servo tech on the market.
They basically did their own custom tower of rhythmic, type stuff. Yeah. But the weird thing is that...
So are you a fan of open baffle bass now or not?
Well, I don't consider a planar open baffle. I mean, it is open baffle, but I'd never heard a dynamic open baffle. I heard plenty of planars and knew what they sounded like. It wasn't until I heard the spatial stuff that I went, okay, well, there's the dynamic in a baffle could actually work too. But the thing about the GT, what's the company called?
GT Audio Works.
GT Audio was how incredibly seamless the integration of the sub and the huge planar thing. It was tight, it was super deep, super dynamic, and no discontinuous.
And it still made you listen to the music, though. It still focused you on the music, despite all the amazing...
I played Steely Dan Asia.
Yeah.
Okay?
Nerd.
And, well, because, they didn't have streaming, and I was like, I need to hear something I know. I was like, I know this one, this is... And it was pretty amazing. So, yeah.
Did anybody here go into the old Forge room and hear those... the Sound Chaos speakers from Switzerland? There was something about that room, and there was a lot of it that I used to distribute as a distributor, so I'm kind of biased for it. But there was something about sitting down in front of that system and those speakers that everything sounded right immediately. And this was one of the first rooms I visited, and usually the first day of the show, everybody's working out bugs, and it was that was the first room where I sat down and said, okay, this is the right sound. This sounds great. But it's the Sound Chaos. There's no distributor. He is the only guy in the United States currently selling these speakers, and they're beautiful. They're wooden. The big ones were shaped like a canoe almost.
Yeah, they're nice.
And they really sound nice. They were doing a lot.
Driving it with pure audio, it was a really nice room.
Yeah, it was my amp, the amp I use at home. Yeah,
it's a really nice amp. There's a couple other rooms I wanted to make sure we kind of done a nice survey. Some of the things that I saw that we've seen kind of over and repeated, worth kind of coming back to. I got to see both Volti speakers today, both the Rival and the Vittora. Sat in the sweet spot. I actually physically ejected two different people from that room, and the experience. I still find these speakers magical. I mean, I love that sound. I own most of that equipment, so maybe I'm completely biased. But it was really fun to go in and hear some locked in audio. I want to also mention Pure Audio Project. That was another fun experience. That sounded pretty good while I was up there. Fine sounds, fine audio, right? It's the new Tannoy. It's the old Tannoy. It's the new Tannoy, right? It's the Tannoy crew with a brand new company, and I think this is going to be really exciting. It looks extremely well made. And if you have any kind of interest in that Tannoy sound, I think this is definitely a nice
very
step
classic
up.
Tannoy sound.
I love it.
I did after hours last night and went there, and they rock like the old classic Tannoys, but they're warm at the same time. They're amazing.
Warm. They're really sensitive. They have reasonable sensitivity with a nice range to them, and they look like they're built.
dB.
I think the ones we saw were $12,000.
$12,000 for a pair. They're
astonishing.
big.
And the wood in the cabinet works really nice.
It was really nice looking. There was like three speakers that kind of stood out for me, finish-wise, that were all very similar. Fine was one, QLM was the second, and then Tidal was the third. Real and in levels, they all look great, right? I love those designs. Did anybody get to Tecton besides me?
You know what? I did go to Tecton, and the McGarry amp on there really did make those sound amazing.
I heard the McGarry.
McGarry doesn't mess up anything they attach to.
I love Mike. Mike does some really nice work. The Salk sound room with the McGarry also now a classic pairing.
That has been a game changer for Salk sound.
That was an early room that I went in the morning, and it was the perfect room because it's so just. It's warm, and I don't want to say soft, but it's
invitational. You sit there and you want to listen.
It's just relaxing, beautiful sound.
Getting back to the Tecton, so the Moabs are enormous, right? They are 500 feet tall. They've got approximately that many drivers.
18 tweeters per side.
Unbelievable, right? You're looking at this thing, and we played some nice dynamic music using the Exogal DAC plus the Exogal Ion, so full digital, right? And we moved more air in that room than I have had happen in any other room at the show. They're $4,000. $4,000 a pair.
I couldn't believe it.
I think it's a steal. I mean, you got to go see these things. And this is one of the reasons why I come to these shows, because every now and again you find something that doesn't make any sense all.
The shipping alone on a speaker that size is a lot of money. So how they do it, I don't know. It's just amazing, and it sounds really good, but they're huge.
Yeah, it's shocking. Hopefully we're gonna get an opportunity to play with these.
Did anyone else hear the I think it's Concert Fidelity Fleetwood headphone amplifier in Stereology?
I did. I went in there.
Yeah.
So Chris and I go back for many years. We were competitors. We were friends. We worked together. I love Chris. He's one of the most interesting people in high-end audio, right? More stories than you can shake a stick at. He's now the importer for Concert Fidelity, which is like ultra-fi in the sense it is gorgeous, extremely well made, and the sound is elegant as hell. It's unbelievable. And then the Oswald Mills kind of child company, Fleetwood, right, with the new speakers. You walk into that room, there's no idea what you're gonna hear, right? No expectations whatsoever. And it was really fun. I really think that these we're going to hear a whole lot from Concert Fidelity. Again, this is a kind of a comeback for the brand, and I think we'll do well with that. There is another thing. Did you all go up to American Sound Distribution and check out Avant-Garde? You gotta go, right? You're never gonna see these things in real life unless you have a very wealthy friend, or you come to a show like this and you see those the best finished speakers in high-end audio. They're unbelievable. So I have a real problem with space penis kind of loudspeaker designs. You kind of put these things into a room and you're like, what the hell is that? That's not anyway, you put a Avant-Garde loudspeaker in front of anybody, right? Anybody. And the first thing they say is, holy crap. It's gorgeous, right? It may not be what every designer may want in their home, but there's no. Oh my God, I can't have that. That's a horrible looking. No, it's not that at all. It's art. It either fits or it doesn't.
It's like a sculpture. It's a beautiful sculpture in your home.
Unbelievable. And Wadax. Did you see the Wadax stuff?
So the Wadax stuff is actually quite interesting. Jameson, you mentioned to me that they're using a custom ASIC for
I think
their...
it is a fully custom ASIC. I don't know a whole lot about how they're doing it, but I know it is on their higher end DAC. I think this is their new entry level at 22 instead of 120.
I went into the not the smaller avant-garde room, but the bigger one, and I thought the resolution in there was remarkable. I would be interested in
really
learning more about that
solid.
converter.
Yeah.
It's a strong company, and if you look at the products that they had on display here, their reference stuff, it doesn't get better build than this, right? You look at that stuff, and none of this is affordable. None of this is going to be casual, right? But if you're looking for top shelf, what's possible? What happens when engineers spend a little too long with budgets that have no end? This is what you get, and it's unbelievable. I like that. In that pairing with the avant-garde, again, way past my budget, aspirational entirely, but it was lovely. It was really a cool experience.
It reminds me of, did any of you see that movie Parasite? In the movie, there's a central, I won't ruin anything for you, but in the movie, the house is sort of a very central thing. And in the house, it's a very mid-century modern house. They have these old imperial speakers from the, I think, 60s, these gigantic. They look sort of like old clips, but much, much fancier. The avant-gardes remind me a little of that and this artistic sort of minimalist Scandinavian thing that they have going on. They bright
I
colors.
have that Ferris Bueller moment.
Yeah.
It's choice. If you can afford it, I highly recommend it.
If you're the sausage king of Chicago.
Even if you can't, even if it's not in your budget, I think being able to hear something that has that level of refinement so that you know kind of what is possible, and you may not have to have that in your system to enjoy listening to it, but to have a benchmark for a level of refinement, I think is cool. It also could quite possibly jumpstart your obsession with high-end audio to the extent that if you hadn't had your mind blown like that, you might not pursue the hobby. No, you might not know what's...
Yeah, and well, that's what I said last year when I was here last year and walked into that gigantic, beautiful showroom that looks like the swankiest high-end audio dealer in the world. The way that they have their setup, and it's $1.3 to $1.4 million of gear in there, and you know what? And the hobby is full of guys who say, "Oh, it's so expensive. Oh, it's ridiculous. This is all," and it's like, and that's not what you do when you hear something like that. You don't sit there and complain about how much it is and that you'll never be able to afford it. It doesn't matter if you're able to afford it. These guys are giving you a gift of being able to sit down in a seat and listen to a $1.4 million system, and you can stay as long as you want until closing time. And it's what, $15, $25, whatever it is to come here, and that's a gift for that kind of money. You don't have to buy something like that to be happy, but you can come out to the audio shows and experience it for a few hours, and it's amazing.
It's like going to the Guggenheim and seeing a Miro you'll never be able to afford.
I'm not walking home with a Rothko today, but I still get to see it.
No. Just don't think about what you can and can't afford, and just be exposed to it and enjoy it, and that's what it's all about.
Any other last thoughts for the show, for Capital Audiofest 2019?
I had a fantastic time, and the ability to hear so much gear in such a compacted environment and be around so many people that are so super passionate and excited about what they're doing was just it was awesome. Yeah,
I was surprised by the number of product releases, but it was generally very, very good sound for how many new products, and also how many relatively, I'm not going to say cheap, but relatively attainably priced setups. I'm hunting for new speakers right now, and it was like, oh, those are things that I could actually maybe afford if I save up a little bit. So that was quite nice to hear a wide variety of things, but also a lot of things that were obviously the $1 million setups, but also very reasonable setups that sounded extremely good as well.
Like I said, this is the second year I've been here, and never been here before. And I've been to 50, 60, 100 audio shows, and I really have to think about, this is a great venue. This is a fun venue. I'm kind of sad that I didn't come here earlier than last year because the spirit here is great. It's a really good show, and I like coming here, and it's close enough for me to drive, which is nice. But at the same time, I was really looking forward to this most of the year.
Okay, yeah, no, I thought it was a banner year for Capital Audiofest because of the growth, the amount of vendors and exhibitors here, and I was really glad that Gary pulled it off. It was organized, the traffic flow was good, the signage was great. I think the exhibitors were well served by the event throwers.
I've been coming here since Capital Audiofest #1, and this is in every way a real show, right? It's not only a good show, it is the premier East Coast audio event. And I think it's really cool. I'm loving the trajectory. I fully expect that the next few years we'll see continual growth, and I'm wishing them the best of luck. I had a great time. I really appreciate all of you coming and sharing some thoughts, and more importantly, I look forward to seeing you all again at the next event. So thanks again for chiming in and giving your thoughts, your time, your experience, but more importantly, all of the money you're going to be spending on all of this gear. All right, everyone, thanks again.